Hi, so today I want to talk about the Kinzhal Hypersonic Missile. Now, yesterday Russia claimed to have used one of these hypersonic missiles, the Kinzhal Hypersonic Missile, on a target in western Ukraine. And this was an ammunitions depot. And this is quite significant because it's probably the first time one of these missiles have been used in a real sort of conflict situation. So what is a hypersonic missile and what is this Kinzhal missile? Well, basically it's a missile that flies at Mach 10, which is 10 times the speed of sound, approximately 6,000 kilometers an hour. So this means it can reach targets extremely quickly. So it has a said range of around 2,000 kilometers. So it could reach that 2,000 kilometers, relatively quickly, flying at 6,000 kilometers an hour. Now, if you listen to Western media, they will have you believe, and quite a lot of Western media have covered this development, a lot of them will have you or try to steer in the direction that this is because Russia are losing the war against Ukraine and that Russia are getting desperate and that's why they have used these missiles. Now, they could have used a different kind of missile to this one to achieve the same job, but they chose this one. And I'm going to sort of give you my opinion on why I think that is a little later in the video. However, as I said, Western media will have you believe that this was because Russia are losing the war and getting desperate. Now, sadly, most of you Westerners watching this video will only have access to one side of the news, and that's very the Western narrative is very pro-Ukrainian. So many of you watching this video from the West will be getting all your information about this conflict from Western media, and many Western countries have actually shut down media from the opposite side, from the Russian side, or sides that are not following the Western narrative. And actually, if you're a little bit more interested, I have another video which I made, and I'll put the link to that up here. It's about how the West are controlling the narrative on the war. But I'm here in China, and I'm able to see both Russian media and media from countries that are sort of neutral, as well as media from the West. And it's very easy to see that there's a very, very different story coming out of both sides. Now, what's really important to remember, during any time of conflict, there will be a huge amount of misinformation. There'll be a huge amount of misinformation coming from Ukraine and NATO and the West. And there will also be a huge amount of misinformation coming from the Russian side. So I'm quite aware of that, and I think something to say here. It's very important to really fact check what you're seeing. Like, for instance, recently in Western press there was a report that the Russian military had bombed a kindergarten, but I've also seen media on the other side that kindergarten had no children in, but was full of Ukrainian far right wing troops. So it's always important to see both sides of the news. And as I say, sadly, in the West, you're kind of blocked from seeing that because your governments have decided that they want to make the decision for you. Anyway, the sort of my opinion on this is that it's not. They haven't fired this missile because they're losing the war. In fact, the information I'm seeing from the sort of neutral and Russian side is that they're actually winning the war. But as I said, there's always a lot of misinformation. So it's really hard to know what the real situation is. Anyway, one other thing to note is that this missile, this hypersonic missile Russia have used, is not only capable of carrying a conventional warhead, it's also capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. And I personally think this is Russia sending out a signal to the West, because there's been sort of talk that NATO could possibly put a no-fly zone. And I think Russia is trying to send out a message to the West here, warning them that they have these missiles and not to get involved. Because what you have to remember is not only do NATO or the West have these missiles, this is technology that only Russia and possibly China has. But also, more importantly, the West doesn't have any defences against this missile. Their current anti-missile systems cannot take down these hypersonic missiles because they just travel too fast. So when you hear, the US saying they're going to send all these extra weapons and anti-missile systems, I think this is Russia sending them a signal that they are not worried about that because they have missile capabilities that can get through those defences. And I think another thing to mention is that Russia have also said any arms shipments that they see coming into Ukraine from the West, they will target and destroy. So this just gives you sort of my opinion, and hopefully tries to give you a bit more of a balanced view on the situation. So I'd like to know what you think. But anyway, that's it for today. And as always, for now, take care.